My coworker built his career on my stolen work. I trapped him with fake data that sparked a massive lawsuit and destroyed his entire life. As a result of my charismatic coworker's covert theft of my physical documents over the course of several months in order to establish his golden boy reputation, I placed a concealed camera and a massively booby-trapped false report on my desk. I was able to sit back and watch as the radioactive data that he took not only resulted in him being fired, but also caused a lawsuit that was worth many millions of dollars and banned him from the whole industry. When the office discovered this and attempted to terminate me for spying, I sat back and watched. I am a male who is 29 years old, and I have been employed as a senior data architect at a supply chain and logistics company in Seattle that is of a medium size for almost 4 years now. Major e-commerce businesses and national retailers are among the clients that our company serves, with regard to complicated routing, warehousing optimizations, and freight analytics capabilities. The piece is extremely thick and of a high technical complexity. As you stare at spreadsheets that include hundreds of thousands of rows, you are attempting to reduce the cost of a shipping route by 3 cents, which would ultimately result in a savings of $2 million for a client over the course of a fiscal year. It's not exactly a glamorous career. There are no magazine covers that feature data architects who work in supply chains. However, I adore it. I actually enjoy the challenge that it presents. Throughout my whole life, I have always been a reserved individual, a true introvert. I do not participate in the water cooler gossip, I do not play on the corporate softball team, and I do not participate in the happy hours that are held with the employees at the office. After coming in, I put on my noise-canceling headphones, I construct analytical models that are immaculate, and then I leave before going home. For as long as I can remember, I have held the belief that quality work speaks for itself. It is one of those contemporary, horrific open-plan notions that we have in our office. There are no walls, no cubicles, and no privacy is available. When you are seated, the frosted glass separators that separate the long, continuous white desks that are separated from one another fall just short of reaching your chin. I have my desk tucked up in the extreme back corner, next to the exit for the fire department. The reason I particularly chose this location is because I despise it when people stroll behind my monitors. My ability to concentrate is greatly enhanced by the seclusion. Nevertheless, as I would soon discover, it also produced the ideal blind spot for me. 2 years ago, management made the decision to hire a new individual to work in our department. We'll refer to him as Julian, 31 years old. The individual was a social genius, and if I had to use just one word to characterize Julian, it would be chameleon. His technical talents were, at most, poor, and he was not particularly intelligent. Nonetheless, his gift was that he was able to make everyone fall in love with him. Julian was the owner of the office from the very first week he was there. Monday mornings, he would bring in artisanal pastries that he had purchased from a bakery located across town. He committed the names of the children owned by the receptionist to memory. He was well aware of the sports teams that the directors considered to be their favorites, and he would casually bring up statistics during morning chats. When he spoke to you, he had this effortless way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He was charming, he was perfectly dressed, and he had this way of making you feel at ease. At first, I had a genuine attachment to him. On sometimes, we would go out to eat breakfast. When he came by my secluded corner desk, he would lean against the glass divider and inquire about my weekend. He would grumble about the horrible coffee that was served in the break room, inquire about my dog, and most importantly, inquire about the projects that I was currently delving deeply into. My assumption was that we were genuine pals. I had the impression that he was merely a pleasant and inquisitive individual who was attempting to become familiar with the intricacies of a complicated sector. A gradual onset of the nightmare occurred approximately 10 months ago. I arrived into the office on a Tuesday morning while it was raining, put my coffee down, and reached for a physical routing report that I had printed out and left on my keyboard the previous evening. It had vanished. The thought occurred to me that I might have left it on the tray, so I checked my drawers, looked under the desk, and even went to the common printer to see if it was there. None of it. I reasoned that the late-night cleaning crew may have swept it into the recycling bin when they were mistakenly cleaning. Although I was irritated by it, I simply reprinted it, handed in my results, and carried on with my life. After a period of 3 weeks, it occurred once more. For this particular instance, it was a full variance analysis for the third quarter for one of our most important national retail clients. During the course of the 12 hours that I had spent constructing the model, I had printed out a paper copy in order to handwrite some specific margin comments before digitizing it the following day. It's gone. They simply disappeared into thin air. Upon inquiring with the janitorial personnel, they declared that they never touch documents that are sitting on desks. Had he seen anything? I inquired of my neighbor, who worked at my desk. When it happened for the third time, It became more than just a little annoyance. The warehouse audit packet was enormous, consisting of 40 pages. I had been working on the analysis for a total of 2 weeks in a row. Because it was a physical draft that was covered in my own personal shorthand annotations, I was unable to simply press the print button once more. Days of labor were lost by me. In order to reconstruct my notes from memory, I was required to remain at the office until 2 a.m. for 3 consecutive nights in a row. I was completely spent, I was consuming caffeine in quantities that were dangerously close to being toxic, and I was beginning to seriously question my own sanity. Was I going completely insane? When I was in a condition of confusion, did I bring these documents home with me and then dispose of them? Following that, the encounter that broke my reality occurred. It was an all-hands meeting on behalf of the department. A man named Marcus, who was the director of our department, was standing at the front of the room and talking over the quarterly victories. He was a kind and straightforward individual. It was the identical warehouse audit that I had been working on, and he clicked on the next presentation, which showed a large logistical revamp for a key client. Marcus gave Julian a big smile and gestured in his direction. "I want to take a moment to specifically highlight Julian's phenomenal work on this account," Marcus said. Julian really stepped up. His analysis on the asymptotic cost reductions in Sector 4 was frankly brilliant. The client was blown away. My respiration came to a halt. Before long, the room began to spin. Cost reductions that are asymptotically occurring. My phrase was just that. That was the exact definition of my hyperspecific language, which I had used in the 40-page packet that I had misplaced. I focused my attention on Julian. He was soaking up the adulation from the audience while he was doing this lowly, aw shucks way of nodding his head. When he grabbed my attention, he smiled warmly, winked at me, and then mouthed, "Team effort." I was experiencing a bodily sickness. It was as if a freight train had hit me with the betrayal. In no way was he a friend. The parasite that he was. I can't count the number of times he came to my desk to chat and inquire about the project I was working on. He was conducting reconnaissance. He was treating my desk as if it were his own personal smorgasbord, waiting for me to accomplish the heavy lifting so that he could sneak in after hours, steal my physical manuscripts, retype them, and present them as his own original work of genius. I did not lose my cool. During the course of the meeting, I restrained myself from getting up and yelling at him. Throughout my life, my father, who is now retired from the military, instilled in me one fundamental principle for navigating conflict: never respond. Respond at all times. Rather than being a tactical action, reacting is an emotional one. I went back to my work, where I stared blankly at my displays, and I made the decision right then and there that I wasn't going to merely expose Julian. I intended to completely destroy him in every way. A significant number of individuals who have left comments have inquired as to the reason why I did not simply store my records in a drawer or rely solely on digital files. Before submitting the final digital version of the document, management strongly encourages the use of physical markups in our particular workflow model. For the purpose of warehouse routing, we make use of enormous blueprints in the form of architectural drawings, which are considerably simpler to annotate by hand. Additionally, filing cabinets that lock are not provided to us at our desks. Instead, we are given open trays. Because I imagined that I worked with grown-ups who were professionals and not with corporate robbers, I never considered the possibility of requiring a lockbox. If I were to simply walk into human resources and accuse the office golden boy of stealing, I was well aware that I would be laughed out of the room entirely. At that moment, Julian had everyone firmly grasped in his grasp. If I did not have concrete evidence that cannot be refuted, I would appear to be a resentful and envious coworker who is attempting to undermine a rising star. A smoking gun was what I needed. The first thing I did was go online and get a high-definition wildlife trail camera that was quite small. It was built to be attached to a tree in order to capture deer, which meant that it was motion-activated, fully silent, did not require Wi-Fi, and branded each and every frame with the precise date and time. It set me back $65. I brought it into the office in a concealed manner, concealed within my workout bag, and positioned it in the ideal spot on the shelf of my workstation, sandwiching it between two thick and tedious accounting textbooks. In spite of the fact that it was almost undetectable, the lens provided an excellent wide-angle view of my entire desk. After that, I required bait. Nevertheless, I wasn't simply interested in catching him in the act of stealing. I wanted to make a document that was so poisonous that stealing it would irreparably damage him. Because if you look at the first letter of every sentence in the third paragraph, it spells out, "Liam wrote this." In a physical sense, Julian choked. While he sat there, his mouth moved back and forth like a fish that was about to die. After that, Marcus, who had finally developed a spine, intervened and provided the CEO with an explanation of the entire issue. It was told to him that the entire document was a honeypot that was designed to catch Julian in the process of stealing, as well as the camera, the metadata, and the thefts itself. Harrison was drenched with rage. It wasn't directed at me. Rather, it was directed at the fact that a scam had been going on in his firm for a year, and that human resources had allowed the office to turn against victim. Not 10 minutes later, I received a call to report to the primary boardroom. When I stepped in, I saw Julian looking pale, sweating through his fine suit, and even appearing as though he was about to throw up. At the very top of the table, Harrison was observed to be standing. Brenda from Human Resources was examining the floor. Harrison called out, "Liam," and his voice reverberated throughout the spacious room. "I have reviewed your security footage, I have reviewed your metadata, and I have reviewed your highly creative bait document. I want to personally apologize to you. You were failed by your management team, and you should never have had to play detective to protect your own labor." After that, Harrison was looking at Julian. There was no longer any warmth in his eyes. Instead, they were completely icy. "Julian, you are terminated effective immediately, for gross misconduct, intellectual property theft, and fraud. Security is currently packing your desk. You will hand over your badge, your company phone, and your laptop right now. If you ever contact anyone in this office again, I will personally see to it that you are sued into oblivion." Julian made an attempt to communicate. There was trembling in his voice as he attempted to turn on the charm. "Harrison, please, let me explain. The pressure was just..." Harrison yelled. "Get out of my building," he directed. The man who had harassed me and turned my coworkers against me, the golden boy of the company, was seen walking out of the boardroom while being accompanied by 2 imposing security officers. I watched him complete the walk of shame. When the door clicked shut, Harrison came back to me. "The senior architect position has been open for 3 months. Marcus tells me you've been doing the work of a senior for over a year. The job is yours, effective today. It comes with a 30% raise and your own private office with a locking door. Do you accept?" I was aware of a smile gradually spreading across my face. I accept. 6 months have passed since Julian was removed off the premises, and in that time, his life has undergone a significant transformation. To begin with, the private office is a blessing in disguise. In terms of my mental health, the fact that I have 4 actual walls and a door that locks has been extremely beneficial. At the moment, I am in charge of a small team of junior analysts, and the rule that I adhere to the most is complete transparency. There is a clear attribution for every single piece of work. I will not allow anyone on my team to experience the same feelings of fear and hopelessness that I had. While it took some time, the social dynamics in the workplace began to recover. The environment underwent a seismic change after Julian was terminated from his position, and the truth about the Phoenix Initiative became widely known. The individuals who had shunned me suddenly became aware of the extent to which they had been influenced by Julian's charisma. A great number of individuals felt indescribably ashamed. The woman from marketing who had dubbed me a creepy stalker actually came to my office, shut the door, and apologized to me in a heartfelt and sad manner throughout our conversation. She stated that she had been influenced by Julian's magnetism, and that she had joined the bandwagon without being aware of the pertinent information. Her apology was accepted by me. In the hallways, the majority of the other people simply nodded at me in an awkward manner, because they were too embarrassed to address the issue properly. It didn't matter to me. At the same time that I was performing something that I enjoyed, I was making 30% more. But it is not the conclusion of the narrative. Mostly due to the fact that Julian, being the complete and utter psychopath that he is, was unable to simply accept his loss and go on. I was reading a book on a Sunday morning at a neighborhood coffee shop around 2 months ago. I was there because I was there. A voice that I was familiar with said, "Well, if it isn't the director's favorite spy." When I looked up, I saw Julian standing there. He didn't look good at all. He appeared to have lost weight, his hair was disheveled, and he was wearing a button-down shirt that was wrinkled and appeared to have been worn while he was sleeping. The lack of effortless charm had fully vanished, and in its stead came an atmosphere that was acrid and empty. He sat down opposite me without my permission and said, "I hope you're happy, Liam. You ruined my life. I had a mortgage. I had plans. You couldn't just talk to me? You had to set me up?" I closed my book carefully, while maintaining eye contact during the entire process. Because of this, I no longer felt angry. I simply experienced feelings of pity. "You didn't make a mistake, Julian," I remarked in a composed manner. "You made a calculated choice to steal from me, night after night, for almost a year. You stole my late nights, my weekends, and my professional credibility so you could play the genius. And when you got caught, you tried to turn the whole office against me to save your own skin. I didn't ruin your life, your own arrogance did." As he scoffed, a sneering expression appeared on his face. "Whatever. Enjoy your little promotion. I just got hired as the director of analytics at Horizon Freight. Better pay, better title. I don't need your garbage data anyway. After getting to his feet, he violently pushed his chair back, and then he immediately rushed out of the coffee shop. The most significant regional competitor that we faced was Horizon Freight. Upon hearing that he had been offered a director post there, I was irritated for around 10 seconds, until I became aware of something very important. A slacker, Julian was. For the past 2 years, he had been doing nothing but coasting on my efforts. It was completely beyond his comprehension how to construct an effective logistics model from the ground up. When I got home, I waited there. I had a feeling that the other shoe was going to fall. The stunning collapse of Julian's house of cards occurred exactly 4 months after it had been planned. I learned about it from rumors that circulated among the industry, and I subsequently confirmed it with Marcus, who was really excited when he informed me about it. When Julian first started working at Horizon Freight, he was under a great deal of pressure to demonstrate that he was deserving of the enormous new pay he was receiving. It was imperative that he achieve a significant victory right away. The fact that he no longer had me to steal from caused him to experience a state of terror. So, what exactly did he do? Over the course of his employment at our organization, he utilized his personal backup disks. In particular, he retrieved the digital copy of the Phoenix Initiative, which he believed to be the only brilliant model he had left. Indeed, he utilized the paperwork from the poison bait. It was not known to him that the math was flipped. It was unknown to him that the zip codes were lethal. After cleaning up the acrostic Liam wrote this, and making some formatting adjustments, he presented the Phoenix Initiative to Horizon Freight's most important client, a national grocery chain, as his own innovative plan. The newly appointed director was trusted by Horizon Freight. The model was put into action by them. Within the span of 3 weeks, the whole supply network of the grocery chain came to an abrupt halt. Instead of being dispatched to densely populated urban areas, trucks were being routed to vacant properties in rural areas. There was a problem with perishable items going bad in warehouses, since the timetables for routing were mathematically impossible to meet. Over the course of less than a month, the customer suffered losses of around $4.2 million due to ruined goods and missing delivery. Immediately, the customer terminated their contract and threatened to sue Horizon Freight until they were unable to defend themselves. After experiencing a state of fear, the executives of Horizon decided to bring in forensic auditors from the outside in order to determine the cause of their routing model's catastrophic failure. The auditors investigated Julian's code extensively. Not only did they discover the inverted matrices, but they also discovered the minuscule white type that was concealed within the borders of the digital file. This is my employment identification number, along with the covert digital watermarks that Apex Logistics has implemented. The company Horizon Freight came to the realization that Julian had not only produced a disaster that was worth multiple millions of dollars, but that he had done it by stealing intellectual property from a direct competitor that was copyrighted and had significant flaws. Instantaneously, Horizon terminated Julian's employment. However, that was not the last of him. Horizon put Julian completely under the bus, in order to protect itself from the impending litigation brought by the customer. In a lawsuit, they accused Julian of committing fraud and sabotage against the company. As a result of the extremely close-knit nature of the logistics industry in the Pacific Northwest, the word quickly spread like wildfire. The story of the golden boy who stole a paper that was booby-trapped, utilized it at a competing company, and caused a $4 million meltdown, was told to every large company, every recruiter, and every CEO. A comprehensive blacklist has been placed on Julian. In his whole life, he will never again be employed in the fields of finance, supply chain management, or data analytics. According to the most recent information that I had through the grapevine, he was working as a shift manager at a retail electronics store, was facing the prospect of selling his condo, and was drowning in legal bills. Occasionally, when I am sitting in my private office, which is a quiet place, and staring out the window at the skyline of Seattle, I find myself thinking about that concealed camera. When I contemplate how close I came to quitting my job, I think of how the office turned against me. This experience imparted upon me a valuable lesson. Charm has the ability to influence a space, but it cannot influence basic data. If you ever find yourself in a scenario in which someone else is taking credit for the hard work that you have put in, you should not let your emotions determine how you behave. Keep a record of everything. Develop your argument in a stealthy manner. They should be allowed to become accustomed to their arrogance. You should also make sure that the bait is something that they will never, ever, be able to digest when you finally set your trap. Please remember to keep your receipts at all times.